thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate it. And anyhow, exciting evening we're going to have. My name is Mike Harless. Most of you know me. If not, I'm with the Washington City Historical Society. And one of the biggest things we try to do is try to preserve the history of this area. That song in itself pertains to this city, and a lot of people haven't heard it. A lot of those who have been around have heard it and can appreciate some of their founding relatives that came here. And anyhow, so we're going to get right into things tonight. Our schedule tonight is going to be, I'm going to take a few minutes and introduce our Grand Marshals and tell their story, and then we're going to have some story time. Bob Nyson and his sister, Mary Lee, over here is going to, or is Kelvin going to do it? Okay, that'll work. I met with Bob and his sister for over an hour, and anyhow, they were telling me all these different stories about Quentin, their dad, and his store, and some of the neat things there. So they're going to share some time with us on that. And then following that, we're going to have some more story time. We're going to have from Lamar Miller and Dennis Iverson, the last two founding members of the Lions Club, and they're going to share some of the fun stories of the Lions through all the years. And believe me, there is some. At the end, then I'll close. We're going to have refreshments. We got some handmade root beer. We didn't have time to do handmade ice cream, so you get the half. So, you know, that root beer could be spiked. I don't know. So, anyhow. All right. Without any further ado, I'm going to take a few minutes and share with you some interesting stuff about our Grand Marshals, which is Terrell and Mary Lee Clove. Many of you have seen them in the parade and other stuff here throughout the whole week. And one thing that the Cotton Days Committee this year has really tried to pamper and really make them feel at home. And I've heard several times from Terrell and both of them just how appreciative they are, the way they've been treated, and how great this was this week for them and everything else. And we just appreciate them being here. So anyhow, Terrell Clove was born in St. George, but he grew up in Henderson, Nevada. I'm giving a shout out because I'm from Henderson by way of Washington through my relatives. So anyhow, retired back here. He has always had strong ties to Washington City. His mother was Thelma Nielsen from Washington City, and his father was Alvy Clove from Hurricane. He has direct links to the original pioneers who settled Washington City in 1857 on both his grandpa's and grandma's side. He earned his bachelor's degree in business administration from Brigham Young University and has worked in healthcare in St. George area since graduation. He is currently and has been a director of the Meadows Retirement Assistant Living Community. He is married to Mary Lee Nyson, who was born in St. George and raised in Washington City. She is the daughter of Quentin and Gwen Nyson, and she also has direct links to the original pioneers. They both love Washington City and are happy to have lived here their entire married life and have been able to raise their two sons, Peter and Stuart, in this wonderful place. They live in one of the historic homes of Washington City and love having the stewardship to care for the home. In 1981, Mayor Robert Slack appointed Terrell to the Washington City Planning Commission, where he served for 9 years. He then served on the Washington City Council for 2 years and then was mayor for 16 years. During that time, he saw many changes in the city. It grew from a small town of 7,000 residents to a bustling city of 25,000 residents. He has always tried to blend a love of the past with a hope of the future. He is a charter member of the Washington City Historical Society and helped promote the Washington City Museum along with the Pioneer Memorial Plaza and Veterans Monument. Terrell and Mary Lee have supported the Washington City Historical Society, who worked diligently in restoring the LDS Relief Society Hall and funded the Women's Monument along with historical plaques at the Adair Springs Virgin River, Water Wheel at Nyson Park, the Adams Greenery, and the City Cemetery. There are also historic markers at many homes throughout the Washington City. Terrell encouraged the city acquiring a historic picture collection that is hanging in the City Hall, and also a mural depicting the city that is hanging in the library. During the time Terrell served as mayor, the city constructed a new city hall and received a gift from the Avard Fairbanks family of the George Washington bust in front of the city hall. The city also constructed 2 new fire stations, the community center, the library, 7 city parks, many miles of walking trails, paid off their power system and golf course, improved and expanded the ball and soccer fields, expanded the cemetery, resurfaced all the streets, added new power substations, improved and expanded the water and sewer systems to cover the entire city, and encouraged and worked with many new businesses that located to Washington City. Terrell also worked with the UDOT to widen the interchange at exit 10 and constructed a new interchange at exit 13, plus receiving the final design and funding for the widening of Telegraph Street, 300 East, and the Virgin River Bridge. Under Terrell's leadership, the city also funded the Public Safety Department and full-time police officers and several full-time firemen, along with many volunteer firefighters. One of the highlights of serving as mayor was celebrating the city's 150th birthday in 2007. Mayor Lee and Terrell have both strived to maintain the sense of community that they have known and loved all of their lives. City celebrations such as Cotton Days, the 4th of July, July 24th, the Veterans Day, and the Christmas in Dixie are something they look forward to every year. Terrell has worked with great city council members, tremendous city staff, and exceptional residents over the years. They have helped to make a difference. Terrell and Mayor Lee both love people, and they are appreciated the opportunity of serving the citizens of the city. All they can say is thank you. So, please stand. Grand Marshals for this year's Cotton Days. Thank you. I asked him if he wanted to stand the whole time I read that. He's like, no. All right, so we're going to press on. So we're going to turn the time over to the Nyson clan, as I would call it. And they're going to talk about Quentin and him and some of the stories and stuff. And they've asked to take a couple chairs and sit and just kind of tell you some stories. If you guys have questions, this is informal. We're just a lot of cool stories. I think it'll be really interesting. So turn the time over to you.
Never any fun for anyone, so I'm going to just try to say a few things. I think all of you, by show of hands, who's had association with Quentin through the years in the store or otherwise? Probably a good share if you haven't you. So I think all of you could probably tell a lot of stories. I'd love to even hear some of those tonight if we have time. I hope we could. But I thought maybe I'd just give a little thumbnail sketch of Quentin and the background. This is an article written by Linda Sappington back in 2001 where she interviewed my dad, Quentin. And it kind of provides some, I think, good information maybe some of you don't know. So I'd like to just read that briefly and then we could kind of go from there. So Quentin Nyson is enthusiastic, animated, and lives every minute in the here and the now. He laughs easily and enjoys lively conversation. And in today's economic climate, his current favorite topic may be how the Washington County is rapidly growing. Boy, it's on steroids now, isn't it? Yellow copies of newspaper articles extol his numerous accomplishments, but even as he shares a busy lifetime of experiences in politics, business, and church service in his hometown, he marvels at how quickly the years have gone by. He did this article when he was 82 years old, still working in the store. I think he worked in the store clerk until he was in his 90s. And so he was he was a trooper to love to be in the store and meet people and greet people. When they asked him about his life in his early days, he said, well, that's a long time ago. I'm not sure I can remember too much of that. His history in Washington goes back about 3 generations, and to his grandfather, Niels Nice, one of the community's first citizens who settled in about 1860. He was born in 1918, and Quentin believes there might have been about 400 residents in his hometown, including Gwendolyn Betty Turner, a pretty little girl who lived down the street. He remembers gift water collected for culinary use in buckets, while gift water flowed through the gardens, washed the clothes, and provided for everyone's Saturday night bath. He recalls the magic of the electrical power, which came to Washington City in about 1917. Thinking back, he chuckled, I think we're all pioneers, aren't we? Quentin and that pretty little girl, Gwen, have lived in that same address for about 56 years. Next door to the store they purchased immediately after he returned from service in World War II, when he was looking for something to do. He was a graduate of BYU with a major in education. And he had planned to teach school, but after the war, it did not seem like the right career choice for a young father with a growing family. So the store, known as the Washington Merc, was built in 1918, and it sold merchandise by ZCMI. At the time, they paid about $18,000 for the house and the adjacent corner store, with the inventory, which was valued at about $3,000, with a desk, a cash register, and a pot-bellied stove. The 30 by 50 foot mercantile sold mostly canned goods, but also carried horseshoes, hardware, buttons, cloth, and after purchasing a small refrigerator, they added fresh meat, eggs, and milk to the inventory. Merely reminded me that through the years, about the next 20 years, they renovated the store about 3 times. And Mary pointed out that a lot of the problem was there were a lot more products coming on, a lot of cereal lines and things. They just needed more room to showcase some of the things. Anyway, the article goes on to talk about Dad's accomplishments, but I thought maybe I'd break off and just talk a little bit about some of my memories. I think Sandy Stevens is here, and she pointed out that when I was a little boy, in the sandbox, I told her I didn't like freckled girls, or didn't like freckles. And she was quite offended. I apologized to her. I said I didn't remember the incident, but I did like freckles. I apologized if I had offended her back then. Some of the stories I remember, and I was hoping some of you guys could maybe fill me in on some of this stuff. But when Dad got back from the war in 1945, and then he and Mom were married right here in this corner, December 26, 1945. And so this hall has had a lot of memories for the family and for, I think, everybody that grew up here. But when it came around the next year to Christmas time, they wanted to have a community event, but really didn't have cloth to make a Santa Claus suit. And Dad had brought home a Nazi flag that they liberated Germany. I guess they had brought it home as a souvenir he had. And I hope some of you can fill this in, but this is the Santa Claus hat. Oh, wow. Must have been made in about 46 for the community event. And there's a full suit here, but I'd love it to be in a museum or something someday.
Oh, yeah.
It needs to be there. It's definitely a lemonade from lemon story. Pretty cool. One of my favorite memories too is being with my dad. Maybe a lot of you can't see this, but this is playing music. Being able to play music with my dad has been a highlight of my life, and every time I come over and play for events, I think of my dad and playing with him. A lot of cherished memories for me. Dad could make the piano talk. I think a lot of you have probably heard him play, but a lot of wonderful memories being around my dad and playing music. And Dad loved to provide music on top of the store. Around Christmas time, around 4th of July, other events, he would play music that would be heard all around the town. So he had a love for music, and I think he helped everyone to feel that love that he had for it. And I don't have a whole lot more. I just kind of wanted to just give a brief thumbnail sketch of Dad's life, but maybe I could turn the time over to Sister Mary at this point.
One of the things I do remember, and all of you that are growing up here in Washington remember the 4th of July. Okay, so to us it was like Christmas in the summer, only maybe even bigger. And anyway, the dad loved firecrackers. And there was the Core beer truck. Was it Coors? Anyway, when he would come up through here, he always had some firecrackers. I don't know where he got them. But Dad would always buy firecrackers. And then we always somehow got a hold of some of them, you know. And anyway, he really had fun with the 4th of July stuff. And just everything that went into the Lions Club and all the things that they were doing that day, the bingo, the food, all that kind of stuff. It was just constant activities all around. Mixing, you know, all the ice cream, Delma, and just everything that you did, the pies. One other memory, trying to think of what, oh, he loved to get, he was in a good business because he loved to know about food. And, you know, if somebody brought in a good recipe or something like that, he was always bringing over some special recipe that somebody had made. He wanted Mom to make it. And usually she would, but he just was so thrilled to get these tastes of different things. And he loved to have things that would make people smile, like in the store. If he could have had, I told my brother, if he could have had an ice cream machine, like make ice cream cones and stuff, he would have loved that. But, you know, he finally got the snow cone machine going. He would freeze buckets of ice every night, and during the summers, I mean, and had this old snow cone machine that we pulled out. And then he got a pop machine for a while. Just anything like that. He loved to, any kind of, I remember too, when the building fund was going on for remodeling the chapel, for building the new chapel, the chuck wagon. You know how the chuck wagon, it was just wonderful. That provided the food for the outdoor movies, and I just remember him saying, you know, they made the Pronto Pups, and he would say, you got to have a really good hot dog. You know, you got to start out with a good hot dog. He wanted this certain brand. I can't remember what it was, but he always wanted to have things taste good. And Aunt Dale Turner, she was one of the original pie women, huh? And so they were always trying to cut cost, of course, because they were trying to raise money to build the chapel. And so Dad had found this better buy on shortening. And he bought quite a few cases of it. And he sent a case down to Aunt Dale. And I don't remember who took it down. Delma probably knows. But she shot that right back up the street. And I don't know what she said to the delivery person, but she had to have Crisco. There was no other. Oh, she called the shortening Fluffo? Yellow shortening. Okay. Oh, so she called Dad Fluffo after that? Oh, okay. Oh, because she was mad. Oh, because she was mad. Okay. Yeah, she kind of had a little bit of a spicy temper. And she's a relative of ours. Just a couple of other things was that, okay, you know how we used to couldn't get good bread really much, but we started to get some bread that would start coming in the store through, I can't even think, it was Jack Mathis that brought it. You probably remember Delmer. Rocky Mountain. And anyway, there was one evening that I was working there in the store, and there was some town folk come in. They were relatives too. We were related to everybody, and that was so great. Being here and being related to so many people, that was such an idyllic growing up. But anyway, the whole family was there, and the wife asked if it would be okay if she got a loaf of bread. And the husband said, yes, it's okay if you do that tonight, but don't let it happen again. Because she hadn't got the bread made. And I have to tell a little story on Delma, because I learned so much from Delma in the store. She was just, when she came to work there, her mother-in-law, Roka, was the first one that kind of, in a way, taught me what to do in the store. She was one of the workers there in the store, the clerks. And Roka was just enthusiastic, loved the kids, just thrilled whenever she'd see the little tots come in, get their little tiny #1 sacks full of candy, which you can't get a little #1 sack anymore, but you know what I'm talking about. They were such a cute, and just, she loved people. And anyway, so Delma came to work there, and Delma had the best memory of anybody. So if we ever needed to know any person, a customer, whoever, a memory, we could always go to Delma, and she could tell us. She always knew. And I can't even remember what I was going to tell you, but that was because that's how my memory is. So if you can, oh, I know what it was. Yes, it was about Delma and the bread. Okay, so Delma was a great baker. And just, you know, she'd tell stories about how I'd be working there, I'm a teenager, I'm lazy, whatever. And she would say, you know, I got to go home, and I got to bottle 2 or 3 bushels of green beans. I got corn from Enterprise. We got to do the corn. I mean, just always there was something. And I just used to think, oh my heck, I don't ever want to grow up. And I wondered how they did it, you know, how she did it all. Amazing. But Bob, her husband, and she kind of called him an old fossil tail sometimes. Remember Delma? He called my old fossil tail. But apparently Delma hadn't got the bread made consistently this one week. Probably it happened once in a while. Anyway, so they had to she served pancakes for breakfast. And she told me that Bob said, you know, I don't want to have pancakes again, so you need to make the bread. Delma, I didn't make this up. No. You remember? Anyway, he liked to have his bread too, but Delma was always a baker. And then later on, after her and Rosalind Everett, they went in together and came over here right on the corner, this little home right here, that's now the little granary that they moved up here, and they started a bake shop. And it was amazing. She did everything by hand, and it was so popular, but you know, after a while, you just can't keep doing that on your own. They didn't have all the machines and stuff. Anyway, it was sure popular. Oh yeah, that's right. Well, I don't have any more memories. I can't talk about Dad in the store. I'm talking about Delma because she reminds me of my dad in the store. So anyway, this is a little poem that my Aunt Yvonne wrote, and she was one of the clerks at this store too, and it's just called The Old Washington Merc. Oh, the life of a clerk at the Old Washington Merc is as interesting as it can be. It's being the only store in town, you see. All the town folks come in showing their cute little grins, and everybody is as friendly as can be, for it's the cutest little store to see. It's not only the Merc and the grocery store, it has horseshoes, nails, medicine, cloth, and much more. For the clerks, there's never a dull moment, you might say, and the funniest things do happen most every day. Like one afternoon when Silas walked in to buy a broom. I proceeded to wait on him, and soon I could smell smoke. Thinking the store was on fire, I almost choked. I decided I had better find Quentin mighty quick, but Quentin, too, had smelled smoke, and he was looking sick. Just then another clerk called out in relief, "It's not the store on fire, but good grief, Silas' cigarette had caught his pants on fire." And old Silas looked like he'd like to hide in the briar. He was embarrassed and kind of mad about the hole in his pants that he had. But now Quentin was glad for sure it was Silas's pants instead of his store. And the clerks all had a good laugh, you can bet, a more interesting time you just can't get. Anyway, Aunt Yvonne was another. There were so many wonderful clerks. We learned so much from them and from the customers that came in. It was just a really wonderful experience, what we gained from being able to see all these wonderful townspeople that would come in the store, and we got to wait on them. So I'm going to turn the time over to Delma for a memory that she's got. You know, we had to do a little bit of detective work sometimes, being a store clerk. And Delma was one of those sharp little women.
Well, I don't want to disappoint you, but I'm not that sharp. And yes, Quentin had the most fantastic memory when it comes to weather. He could tell you what the weather was 10 years ago on a certain day. And I'm not kidding. He knew weather inside and out.
Can't hear you, Delma.
So merely asked me if I would do this. And, you know, 1970, put yourself back there in 1970. It was late spring, early summer, and my phone rang one morning, and it was Quentin on the phone. And he said, Dilma, I'm wondering if you could come up and work for us for a while. The lady that was working here was picking apricots, and she fell out of the tree and broke her leg. So I need some help for 2 or 3 months. Okay, I said, let me think. Bob will be home for dinner at noon. I will talk to him and see about it. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for close to 20 years. I had 6 kids. I had a child that was 2 years old. What am I going to do? Well, Grandma lived next door, which was Roca, and it was arranged that she would have a nap with my youngest one, and I would go to work at the store. Well, those 2 or 3 months lasted for close to 12 years or so. And it was really a great place to work. The people that I worked with, there was Helen and Lynn-Ann and Rosalind and Yvonne and Linda. There was others, but that was the main ones that we stuck with for quite a while. We had high school girls also. So anyway, the crew of us, we had a great time, and we worked. We did. When we weren't busy with customers, we had to dust and rearrange the drug shelves and stock a few shelves. So anyway, first off, I want to let you know that the Nyson Merck was the first national bank of Washington City. Yes. Everybody would come in to cash their Social Security checks or whatever, and they could always depend on getting their check cashed there. So I'll tell you a little check story right now. First off, there was 2 ladies came in, and one of them had written a check to the other one, and the gal with the check wanted to have it cashed. So I looked at it, and I kind of chuckled and laughed, and I thought, oh, I can't cash this check. And they said, why? Well, the lady that had written the check out to her friend had signed the friend's name at the bottom. So that check was torn up, and they had written another check, and it was endorsed, and we cashed it. So just kind of a little bit of humor. We had so many things that came, through on a daily basis. September is Quentin's birthday. I don't remember what day now. I wanted to say 4th, but I think
August 12th.
the 10th.
August 10th.
So anyway, Quentin's birthday was coming up, and us crazy girls decided to have a birthday party for him in the store. We made a big cake, and Linda brought a boom box, and we had a fun time. And I think Dion even had a grass skirt and so on. And anyone that came in was welcome to a piece of cake. So we had such a fun day. Everybody was singing happy birthday to Quentin when they came in. Well, we decided among ourselves that for the next year, whoever had a birthday, the employees, we would have another birthday party for them. So we did that throughout the year. And we had some fun birthday parties. Well, Linda was the program planner. We got Dion he did a striptease, some sort of really jazzy music. He got clear down to his swim trunks. Then he grabbed his clothes and headed for the back to get dressed. So again, the customers that came in enjoyed the cake that was served there on the counter. So through the years, we had so many fun times. tell you one time, there was a lady, a young woman, she was probably in her 20s, and she was pregnant. I believe she lived over in a trailer court. They lived here for, I think, maybe 3 years. Anyway, she come in, she's pregnant. And she didn't have family here, and we kind of bonded with her, all of us that worked there at the store, and embraced her. And anyway, she came in, she didn't come in for a while, and when she did, we could see that she had had her baby, but she didn't have the baby with her. So we talked to her. Yes, she had a baby boy, and she acted kind of sad. Anyway, me and my big mouth, I said, well, you're going to have to bring that baby in and see if we approve of him. So the next day or two, she comes in with her baby. She set the carrier on the counter, takes the cloth off his face. I looked at him and I thought, this baby's got the most gorgeous, beautiful eyes. And she started to cry. But that baby had the most horrible cleft palate that went up into his nose. He was beautiful black hair, beautiful eyes. She told us then that they had an appointment in Salt Lake for surgery. And in the meantime, they went to Salt Lake, had surgery on their baby. I think he had 2 or 3 while they were here. But she never failed to bring that baby in so that we could see him and talk to him and gush over him. So sometimes we need to watch what we say, but yeah, bring him in, let's see if we approve of him. So I want to kind of a few funny stories. I'll tell you 3 stories that kind of go to the back of the store. There's this man came just bursting through the door. He said, I've been bit, grab the alcohol. And he just ran to the back as fast as he could go. I think it might have been Bob back there, I don't remember. But one of them back there helped him disinfect his butt and put some Band-Aids on it. His pants was tore and they were bloody. So what he had done, he was nosing around in the back where he had no business being. And Quentin had a big German Shepherd dog. And the dog got startled. And what did he do? He bit this guy right square in the butt. I don't think he dared ever press charges on Quentin for that. So, was it you, Bob? Maybe Garth. Anyway, one of them helped him get him all patched up. So there was another one. Maybe some of you remember when Quentin had a gas bowser, a single gas bowser. And we'd pull up and gas our cars and go in and pay for the gas. And this one lady, she came in and, she gassed up her car, went in, got some groceries, went back out, got in the car, and drove off, or tried to. The hose was still connected to the car. Quentin had kind of an upsetting episode with that one. So we had another one. There's a man, they had a big delivery of dry goods that sat on the back dock. And some of it had been taken in and checked off and put away, and some of it was still there. There was one big box that sat there. This man came up, backed his truck into the dock and loaded this big box. It was large. It was about the size of a casket. And he thought it was empty, but it was full of blankets. Well, there's somebody walking up the street and seen this happen. So he went in and told Quentin about it. Well, Quentin got right on the phone and called this guy. He said, listen, that box better be returned to my dock really quick, or we're going to have the law on you and you're not going to like it. He did return the box. It was full of blankets, and that was kind of the end of that one. So, had a little boy come in one night. Okay, we worked from 8 in the morning till 2, or from 2 until 8 at night. So we had 2 shifts, and us women would break those up. Usually 2 or 3 of us at a time would be in the store. So this one night, and it was when the nights, when the days were getting shorter and the nights were getting dark quicker. This little boy, probably about a 2-year-old, a second grader, excuse me, he came in and swinging some money in his hand, and he went back and got a loaf of bread. He said, "My mom wants a loaf of bread." So we checked him out. He gave me the money. He handed me a $100 bill. And I'll tell you, back in the 70s, there wasn't very many $100 bills floating around. So anyway, I rang him up. I took the $99 and change and put it in Marilee's little candy bag. They're just little tiny paper bag. I rolled it up, I taped it down and stuffed it in his pocket. And I said, "You get straight home." He had about 2 or 3 blocks to walk, and he was alone. So a little while later, the phone rang. And it was his mother on the phone, and she was horrified. She said, "I was in a hurry. I thought I gave him a $1 bill." And here she had trusted this little child going down the street with a $100 bill for a loaf of bread. Okay, who remembers DDT? A few people. DDT was really used a lot for bugs and whatever, and after so many years, the government said, okay, it's too dangerous, and you're going to have to take it off the shelves, and so there wasn't much DDT left around anywhere. Well, this person came in, asked Quentin, "Have you got any DDT?" And he says, "I think I might have some in the back." And he brought a bottle up and told her how much it was. And he said, "I won't pay that much for that. I'll go to town and get it cheaper." Do you remember that? She went to town. She came back the next day after the bottle of DDT because there wasn't any in town. Quentin was quite happy to tell her it was already sold. Do you remember that? Okay, there was this older gentleman, and he'd never learned to drive a car. His family was wanting him to learn to drive a car. His wife had a car, but he had never learned. So he was learning, family was gone, and he decided to take the car and come down to the store and get something, I don't remember what. So he came down, he stopped at the stop sign over there. It seemed like it was before I-15 was open, and we had 91 highway going through town. So anyway, he stopped at the stop sign there on the corner, got out, left the door wide open, walked across the street to the store, purchased what he wanted, got back in the car, got across the street back in the car. He had a hard time getting under reverse. We were all there watching out the window. And he finally got in reverse and backed over in double Nison's yard. And then he finally got in first gear and went chugging up the street, but he never did get that thing out of first gear. So just fun. Things that goes on every day, just comical things.
I don't see it every day in your contacts.
Oh my holy Toledo. Anyway, there was a lady from Las Vegas. She was quite wealthy, and she had relatives in the area, and when she would come up, she always liked to come over to Nison's to buy quilts, fabric for quilts. And as you know, a lot of you, Quentin had, I'd like to say thousands of yards of fabric, but it might not have been quite that much. But anyway, this lady, like I said, she was quite wealthy, and she was dressed to the T. And I remember Helen and Rosalind and some of us would kind of jockey trying to make sure it was us that got to get, it was us that got to get back there and help her with her fabric. She was the sweetest lady. We called her Mrs. Las Vegas. And she came every once in a while. Yeah. So, what? Anyway, I think I'll quit. I could, no. Working for the Nysons at the Merck was really a choice experience, a good job. And the people I worked with, and then Quentin and Gwen, Bob, Marilee, Garth, even Kelvin. We even seen June once or twice. But it was a choice place, a choice time in life, a quieter time. And like Quentin, we loved to get recipes from somebody that was shopping, Some of my favorite recipes are from customers from the Merck. And I want to thank these kids for the opportunity I've had of enjoying the Nyson family. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Just a couple of little things. The DDT, that was a pesticide, that they used to use that around town a lot. And I know there's a lot of people that didn't like it. And the way he used to sell that, actually, was in the basement. It was in a big sack. You'd have sacks of it. And of course, it's illegal now to even have it. But back then, we'd actually take it out of the sack and put it in another sack or a bottle and sell it that way. Anyway, when we cleaned that basement up and we turned it into kind of a hardware section, that was quite a job cleaning that up because some of that had spilled out. But anyway, that's the way it used to be. It's a DDT down there. And I remember we'd sell it just by the, and he'd weigh it. I guess it was weighed by the pound. But anyway, there's just a couple of little things that I can remember about Dad that was quite interesting that you might like to hear. During the serenade, when he'd serenade the town, there was a lot of different people that got on the serenade truck. He wanted anybody to get on that truck that could play an instrument. Or if they didn't play an instrument, get on the truck. Anyway, it was kind of funny because they incorporated the cannon a little bit later. And the cannon was really noisy. Talk about firecrackers. And he loved the noise. He wanted to wake everybody up on the 4th of July. And early in the morning. Well, naturally, as the time went on, a lot of people didn't really like that because they had dogs and it would shake some of them I remember especially in some of the trailer courts would just shake those windows. And the guys that were over that, it wasn't Dad, they would probably put a little bit of extra charge in it. It was acetylene and oxygen in a big barrel. And it sounded just like, a stick of dynamite. It was loud. Anyway, somebody called up and I happened to answer the phone one day. And that was probably, I don't know, back in the late 60s or when I was actually working in there. And anyway, they said that they was really mad about that because they had done some damage or they had scared their dogs or something. I can't remember the details. But they says, tell Quentin to quit going around, and they thought he was doing it. Tell Quentin to quit going around and setting that damn cannon off. He says, it scared the hell out of my dogs and take that damn thing and never do that again. Anyway, I give him the information, and they did kind of calm that down after that. I don't think they did use it. But like I say, back at that time, they thought that Dad or Quentin, he did everything. He even went around by himself and set that cannon off. Another little thing, and then I'm going to get set down. One thing, too, that was quite interesting was when we closed that store, the old hardware store, and of course the road made it go out of business because of the widening of the street, there's a clock up at the front. and it was a Shillings coffee clock that the company would give Dad, and of course he put it up there, and it'd been in there for a long time. I don't know if you remember that, Delmer, or not. It was a Shillings coffee big clock, about this big around, about a foot in diameter. But anyway, when we closed that store at the very end, last night we were in there after we'd closed everything out, that clock stopped and started to go backwards. I'm not kidding you. And it was an electric clock. And before you get too superstitious about it, I did ask Dorth about it, and he said it did happen once before. He can remember that happened. But that was strange. I still can't quite get over that. It was probably about 8 o'clock, and there's 3 or 4 of us standing around, and the clock stopped, and then it started going backwards. Anyway, thank you.
I want to show of hands how many people ever was in the old store. Show of hands of those that were never in the store. You were in the store today. And that's to me why we did this tonight, is those that never have, and maybe tonight you can appreciate why this town has such a strong feeling, support for their pioneer heritage. Just this, I did a thing on censuses for the town, and when it was founded in 1857 and 1860, there was about 300 and something people here. And it was that way every 10 years up until 1970. Anywhere from 300 to 400 and something people. Town never really changed, but in 70 then it did, and took off, like I think someone tonight mentioned it. But anyhow, we're going to press on here. Lamar, would you like to come on up? Dennis? Anyhow, the Lions Club was founded in 1969. We have the original charter, and these are the last of the remaining chartered members. And I've had the honor of being a big part of the Lions Club since I moved here, and I've heard some of these stories, but tonight we're going to hear some of these great stories, and there's some pretty funny ones too. So, but Lamar said he'd do this tonight if Dennis would, and Dennis said he would if Lamar would. So here we go.
It's kind of hard to follow that Nyson bunch. They're very goers, a pretty good bunch. Anyway, I'm Lamar Miller. I was born and raised in Washington 92 years ago. Spent a couple of years in the Army and a couple of years down in Las Vegas working, and since then I've been in Washington ever since. So it's been really nice to call home. And let's see. Oh, well, I wanted to say one thing since Sister Paxman asked. I did find somebody today that was older than I was, 2 months. So pretty good. Anyway, I thought maybe I'd just go on all things about Washington a long time ago, what I can remember, and how it started. And way back when the pioneers was coming down, why they come in over here, and there's a spring, an 8-hour spring over here on 150 North and 200 East. And it's a really nice spring, comes out of the hill, and about the first person that settled on it was an 8-hour. So they call him an 8-hour spring, and so all the people that come in then was settled on this spring because that was only water, only any place to camp much at all. So they all camped at this spring and just camped all around it, and I think no shelter whatsoever. They'd dig a hole in the wall for a shelter, or build something out of some bushes along the banks there. Or in their wagon, still had their covered wagon. They'd live in the top of it and had built cover at the bottom of it, so they'd have a bedroom down there or something. Anyway, they lived all around this thing until they got something else going. And this spring came out and went down the road, and that's the only water they had was that spring. And they went to the spring, and they went down 50 feet, and they marked a 50-foot mark across the ditch, an old dirt ditch, and it they had it all cleaned out and everything, but they went down the ditch 50 feet and put a big red marker across there. And so that the women got to go in the ditch down to the 50 feet, and then after that it was the men were turning to use the ditch for their bathing or whatever they wanted to do and how they lived in those days and one thing, you know. And I just like to stop and ask the women here, how would you like to live something? Could you imagine living like that nowadays? How would you comb your hair? How would you wash your hair? How would you do anything? Let alone have a bath. And so it's just a long time, them old timers and how they did it, and really suffered. Oh, let me see what I got here. Not much, can't read it.
Ah, you got some notes, huh?
You want them?
I got a note.
I've got glasses on here.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, that's wrong. The Illinois. Oh, yeah, yes. And well, in the years come by, the years come by, and the town got a little bit bigger, and they had the springs, different ones in town, and the water ran through town on ditches. And that's the only way anybody had a way to get your water for the day is for drinking water or washing water or whatever it was. They had to get out of this ditch and for the day, and 5 gallon buckets or 50, whatever. And they had until 9 o'clock in the morning to get all the water they wanted, because then they turned the stock out there, the cows and the hogs and the pigs and the sheep and everything out, and they got to use the ditch. So you could still use it, but you didn't know what you was drinking after that. So it was quite interesting, old folks. And they didn't have, of course, any refrigeration at all. They just, nothing. And so any fruit or anything, or meat or anything they had to bottle it, had to put it in bottles and boil it and bottle it and store it and do it all winter, all summer long. Had to get all the food they wanted in them bottles to last them all winter, because they didn't have any more. And so they just have to boil every bit of it. They all grow as much garden as they could. They'd plant all their vegetables and everything. And if they could get a pig or maybe poach a deer, they just maybe hang it on the north side of the house as long as they could. But they'd have to cut it all off and put it in these bottles, and any kind of beef or whatever they had to bottle it because it wouldn't last. You couldn't keep it very long. And so that's how they kept their food. They'd get it all in the summertime and to last them all winter. And so they all had it pretty tough, I'll tell you. And the bottles on, keep it planted, down to cotton mill. They owned where the winery is here down there. The cotton mill. That's where they was going to Brigham Young built a cotton mill and sent them a lot of them down here to raise cotton and run to the cotton mill, and they got going along. They did pretty good. It wasn't a paying proposition. They didn't work to raise enough cotton to worth about it. And so I remember going in there a few times, and there was great big old 1,000-gallon wood barrels, great big old barrels in there, and they was going to make wine. So everybody planted grapes and had these great big barrels down there to make wine, and they got it in there. About the time they got it in, they got it going. They cut out wine. You couldn't use wine for thing anymore. You had to use water. So that ended the winery down in the garden factory, and yeah, we and family, and everything was done in the summertime. The wives and the families didn't have any heating or air conditioning at all. And they did all their cooking on these old wood stoves, and cooking and heating. And so they just have to really suffer to take care of all these. In the summertime, they do it too. They'd have to use these old wooden coal stoves for the winter and summer to keep warm and cooking, and then up to Warm Springs. Yeah, up there we always thought go up there as kids. We'd go up there and go swimming, and we didn't have a number 3 tub to swim in, but I mean to have a bath in, so we'd go up there and go have a bath up to Warm Springs or Borders up there now. And we didn't have any swimming suits either, so we just go to the hill, get down in and go swimming, and if the girls or anybody come over the hill, why we better head for the bushes. So they was all gone, but it was quite exciting to have them boys up there and everything. Yeah, well, it has a little story here too. I hear the other day I got a letter from the church up there, and they said that it looked like I was going to get a refund on my tithing. Well, I could use that, send it on down. So, pretty good. So, well, that's about it on the town, but we got the Lions Club here to go on, and Lions was started in 1963, and we were charter members in 63, and Dennis Howard's the only one left.
Kenneth.
Huh?
Kenneth, isn't he? Kenneth was a charter member. Kenneth Jolly.
Well, he's out. He's long gone.
But he was a charter member.
Oh, was he? I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
Probably, he might have been.
Yeah.
Well,
He was.
Ferd was too, I guess. But he quit too, so I don't know.
Well, he's a charter member.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's don't have a bargain about it.
I'm here to keep you on the straight and narrow, Lamar.
Well, where did we get to? So, well, yeah, the Lions Club members, we was 52 years ago. We've been members of the Lions Club for 52 years. And pretty nice, yeah. We've really enjoyed it. I have really enjoyed it. And it's been good for me all my life, a lot of camaraderie. And we worked together and did a lot of good things. And well, first we built the big ball field out here. The first ball field built out here, the Lions Club built that, and there's the little league field next to it. Lions Club built all that, just manual labor. And we practiced Eddie, run under some lights or St. George someplace. He went to work on them, bummed them, and he didn't charge him anything, and we bought them over, and that was the first lights we had on the ball field. And so that's how we got the ball field, and then we built partly of the hamburger stand that's still there today, and the 2 ball fields. So first fire department, we started the first fire department, and we went together. Well, we had enough money to buy a 1952 72 Chevy pickup, 1 ton. We had a 300-gallon water tank on it with a pump. And that was our first engine we had for Washington Fire Department. And Brett Kendall was the fire chief, first fire chief. He was a member of Lions Club too. He volunteered to be the fire chief. And we followed the fire building, first fire building they had for the fire engine. We hauled it up on 200 North, down to about 150 South. And it's still in there today. Old Gerald owns it. And but it's still in there today, that old firehouse. And that's where we got the fire engine, fire started. And oh, yep, that's the over Big Caroline and well, we still get $1,000 a year, $1,000 for a scholarship. Any student that graduates from what comes from Washington and needs a scholarship, they'll be eligible for this scholarship, and it will be awarded to someone from Washington. So me see here. 4th of July, we still do the 4th of July, and it's a big deal for us to be able to put that all on. And we used to have, well, we started out with about 32 members in the club when it was chartered, and now we're down to about 14 or 15, I think, aren't we? And we sure could use some more good members, charter membership for the Lions Club. If anybody could use one, we could sure use some good help. We got a lot of, the youth council comes and helps us on a lot of our problems, and we certainly want to thank them for coming and helping us and being part of us. All the money we make off these projects, why, we make, everything we make is put back into these projects that we do. So if you had breakfast here yesterday morning, part of that went to some project in town here, not too long. And so it's a good job, and we do a lot of good. And thank you to the old nice band. Well, I had one more little story I may well tell. I'll tell you. Sure. Okay. Well, I went to church the other day, and Brother Hafen was teaching the Sunday school class there. He went on stage and on the podium. He had lined up on the podium 4-quart bottles on that podium. Went back to bottle number 1, and he was explaining that bottle number 1 had cigarette smoke in it. Just plumb full of cigarette smoke. Bottle number 2 had whiskey, booze. In bottle number 2, plumb full. Bottle number 3 had Hershey's chocolate syrup. It was good kind. Bottle number 4, just plain old dirt, just out of the garden, just dirt. And so then he went back to bottle number 1 he had like a Ziploc, and he reached in it and pulled out a big old wiggly worm and puts it in bottle number 1 with the cigarette smoke. In bottle number 2, he put a wiggly worm with the alcohol. Bottle number 3 with the chocolate syrup had a wiggly worm. The dirt had, just old dirt had a wiggly worm, put a wiggly worm in. Then he went back to sing and loaded him up, and he went to teaching the class for about 15 minutes or so. And then he went back toward bottle number 1 and pulled out the worm and just dead her in the mackerel, just dead. Bottle number 2 with booze, whiskey, and pulled out the worm, dead her in the mackerel. Bottle number 3 with Hershey's chocolate syrup in, worm, dead her in the mackerel. And then he went, bottle number 4 with the worm in it was just still wiggling all over the heck. Good, just doing really good. So then he went back and asked anybody in the class if they would like to compare how the bottle number of the demonstration compared with the lesson. And Brother old Dennis here was back in the back there, and he raised his hand and said, well, looks like to me if you smoke good cigarettes, smoke them good, have a little whiskey, drink a little whiskey, eat old chocolate syrup, you won't get worms. So I guess that's about me.
I had the opportunity of wearing this suit one time at the Lions Club Christmas party. They had a full suit. Is a full suit still available, you know? Oh, is it? Well, I was pretty skinny then, and you had to be pretty skinny to fit this Santa Claus suit. So I explained it had been a tough year at the North Pole, but I wasn't going to have any trouble getting up and down the chimneys now. Quentin one day, when I turned 20 years old, called me into the bishop's office. And he said, I think you ought to go on a mission. And I said, oh, golly, Quentin, I've got some obligations. I don't know if I can or not. And he was pretty wise. Didn't try to talk me into it at all. He says, why don't you go home and think about it this week and come back next week? So I went back next week, and things hadn't changed much. I told him I still got some obligations. Quentin said, well, why don't you go home and think about it and come back again next week? Well, I made the mistake of going home and thinking about it. And so I went back the next week, and I decided, maybe that's what I ought to do. So I did. But I appreciate Quentin to this day. He changed my life, I tell you, by just suggesting that I go home and think about it. Okay, now the Lions Club. I'm going to be as brief as I can. The Lions Club was in St. George. That was the Lions Club. And only the elitist of the elite were members of the St. George Lions Club. And the thing that I knew the St. George Lions Club for was the Dixie Roundup. And if your dad was a member of the Lions Club, you got to go to the Roundup for free. Got to go to rodeo free. I thought, holy cow, I wish my dad was a member of the Lions Club, but he wasn't. So one day, a friend of mine had some rodeo tickets. And I didn't know where he got them, but we hitchhiked over. We were probably in about the 7th or 8th grade. We hitchhiked over and went up the steps to the rodeo and gave him our tickets. And the police took us by the arm. Back down the steps we went and got in the police car and headed up towards the jailhouse. He says, how'd you guys like to spend the night in the jailhouse? This friend of mine was Claude Larson, lived over here on 200 East. Claude says, well, I guess we ought to know why we're going to jail. Well, it turned out that some of our friends, I think it was Dennis Hafen and one of the Pim boys, had got into the booth where they had the tickets and got them a little strip of tickets and were passing them around. We got part of them. But anyhow, we, as Lamar said back in the 60s, in order to organize a Lions Club, you had to have a sponsoring club. And the St. George Lions, I saw a group of them come over and started visiting with some of us and asked us if we'd like to organize a Lions Club here in Washington. And, we'd seen those guys over there, they'd done some great things. So we decided maybe we ought to be interested in it, so we decided we would do it. And they sponsored us. We got our club chartered, and it has been a great experience for us here in Washington. Now let me tell you to begin with why. The motto of the Lions Club, of Lions International, is "We serve." And this town did not have a service club at all in Washington. And at that time, the school was right here, and the school district was planning on moving the students to St. George because they didn't feel like we had enough students to maintain this school here. And the building and the yards, the grounds around were not being taken care of very good. So we went to the school district and we said, what if we redo the yards, landscape the yards, do some things? Is it possible we could keep the school here? And I said, well, let's see. And so we went to work. We cut down all the old trees and planted nice young trees and redid sidewalks and did an irrigation system and planted grass so it would look pretty nice around the school. And we was able to maintain the school here then. Within 5 years, they built the new Washington Elementary then after that. So they probably would have done anyhow, but it was really a benefit to the community, I feel, that was able to maintain our school here. Up to the cemetery, it was nothing but a boot hill, I'll tell you. And we started to work to landscape the cemetery. And with the help of the city, we did the work, got the grass planted, and got that cemetery so it looked nice. Now, we had a man in our Lions Club whose name was Tom Jensen. He worked for the BLM. I never got along with the BLM. I'm a rancher. But I got along with Tom. And Tom, this property right up here where the ballparks are, as Lamar mentioned the ballparks, the rec center, the new elementary school, the library, that whole area there was a piece of BLM property. And Tom had the understanding and ability to get that property in the city's name so the city could use it. But to begin with, it could only be used for outdoor recreation. And so we started on the ballparks. The city built the handball courts. And I don't know how many of you remember, but they wanted to put a roof on the handball court. No, you can't do that. It's outdoor recreation. You can't put a roof on it. So the handball courts were open-air handball courts. And then we as the Lions Club went to work and built a tennis court right there too. And now, of course, the city's expanded the cemetery onto some of that same property. Over time, the use of it has changed to where it can be used for the uses that it's being used for now. We did a lot of work. We did these basketball courts out here with the help of some of the businesses that donated concrete and stuff. And it just with having the Lions Club and a service club to work with really helped our community, I believe. As I indicated, the Lions motto is "We serve." And the main focus of Lionism is site preservation. Most of our money to begin with, other than what projects we did, went to help the Utah Lions maintain the Lions Eye Bank. And we maintained, and I don't know how modern medicine does now. I don't even know if the eye bank still functions. But donors, something happened to them, people that were donors could donate their retinas. They were maintained in the Lions Eye Bank, and we became a part of maintaining that eye bank. We also had what was that, the iMobile or whatever it was, the Sightmobile. It visited the whole state. And Utah Lions maintained that. And it come to every community and did sight examinations, eye examinations. So anyhow, we've had a good time and done some good things. Well, I got a whole list of things here, but I don't need to mention them all. You guys have seen some of the things in the community that the Lions Club has accomplished. And it's been a joy to participate. It's been quite a while, hasn't it, Lamar?
Yep.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the community. We've enjoyed working in the community.
I just thought of something. The Lions Club collects old glasses, cleans them up, and puts on what they are, writes it on there what they are, and then we clean them up, put them in packages, and my boy is an eye doctor, and he takes them and goes to all over the country, those eyeglasses, like he went to Guatemala and Mexico and all over, all different places, several of them, and takes those eyeglasses and fits them to all the different people out there that needs those glasses. It's all over the country.
How do we get those glasses to you?
Well,
There's collection boxes.
yeah, the collection boxes.
I think Walmart, Eye Center at Walmart has some. Even the barbershop over here used to have a
Yeah,
box.
I think they did, huh?
Yeah.
And where else? Well, Quentin, well, I don't know. Well, one of the Lions Club teams to take it. But I remember one of those stories we had. We I was in the Washington Council for 8 years, and we started out we're going meeting in the mayor's home, That's when we first started meeting in the mayor's house. Then we finally got out and got down to the Relief Society building down there. We met down in there for a while. And I can't remember when it was we started, but finally bought this piece of ground here where they're at now over here. And where are we? Yeah. And old Pete Iverson sold it to us for $35,000, that whole half a block. So we got that, took us a while to pay for it, but we got it. We put a trailer house out on the end there, and then that's where our home was for Washington City. That's the office building. Yeah.
Okay, when we purchased this, and we just found this brochure, and when the Cotton Days Committee got together this year, I sent it to them in July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of 1983. Mayor Slack and City Council wrote a letter, and they officially made that the Cotton Days. That was when they first started it and everything, because they had just purchased, they had this Veterans Park, which we call today, and then the first stage of the city offices and everything. And a lot of cool stories here. I hope you enjoyed them. I've heard them. The nice thing about tonight that they don't know is I got it recorded now.
That's illegal.
One more thing, Mike. The Lions Club was the first one to build one of all these buildings out here, and the restrooms and wherever we cook and have all that. The Lions Club built all that to start with. They've redid it all now, made it all new, but we did it to start with.
We did.
Give them a big round of applause.
Aren't they wonderful? I mean, all these stories, we know, all of us kids remember them, don't we? Anyway, what I'm going to talk about is the puzzle. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, please. It's our story, it's our history. And we've got a 6-foot puzzle. It was shown for 2 days, and it's going to be put up in the city hall, and so that you can go see it. And it is amazing. People are going to walk in, they're going to look at it, and they're going to know our story of our town. We put in 65 different things, and we could have put in 5,000 different things talking about our town. But Derek Daddle, when he's done a puzzle or a painting, he's only allowed 10 main items. He allowed me 65 plus items. And what is so exciting in the puzzle, we also have the history and the story of Washington. Did you notice that was Washington? Yes, I'm from Washington. My A's are O's, my O's are A's. I'm truly a Southern Washington girl. So sorry. But anyway, have the opportunity. We've got full rights on the puzzles and the paintings for a full year. Nobody gets any profits. The money that we're going to make from them is going to go back to the Historical Society and the museum for keeping our history alive, which is so vital and so important. These wonderful people that shared their history tonight, you know, we don't ever want it to go away. We want to keep it here, correct? So anyway, that's all I have to say, and we'll be back there.
I've been sitting and listening, and it's been a long and exciting week, and a lot of things going on. And as I was listening to Lamar and Dennis and the Dilma and all these, the Nyson family, these are my memories. But I'm looking. I've made new friends that have moved to our community just the last few years. And as we're talking about these things and we're getting excited, I'm hoping that you'll feel just a little glimpse of how blessed you are to live in such a beautiful little place. And these stories are so tender, and this room that we're in is the gathering place. It was the gathering place for every single thing. And we had Christmas plays. As I was sitting back there, I remember being up here and looking down. It looked like there was 5,000 people in here for our Christmas play. And we're really excited to take this next year. We hope it's only a year. And they're going to come in and give it a little bit of a facelift and make it still our gathering place, but the home for our community. It will always be our home here in this little gymnasium. And the mayor asked me the other day, he goes, "What should we call it? What do you think we should call it?" And I said, "The gymnasium." And he said, "But do you think people will like that?" And I'm like, "They've liked it all these years, so I think it'll be fine." So we're excited, and they've taken a lot of input from our community, which makes us happy to know that. And and you'll see some of the historic features that are in this space come back to life. And so we're very excited about that. But can we just give everybody a big round of applause? We have had the best week with the best committee, volunteers. The cloves have been so fun as our grand marshals. And so thank you all for being here, and I really appreciate everyone.
Thank you. Give her a big round of applause. So I just want to once again thank, I'll call them the Nyson clan, for sharing their time with us. Lamar, Dennis, thanks for sharing the Lions Club. I learned a few more new things, and just great stuff there. And the Cloves for being Grand Marshals this week and opportunity to share their information and everything else. I want to say thank you to the Cotton Days Committee, helping make this tonight possible and agreeing to it. When we knew what was finally in the puzzle, because Carmen kept it all quiet till the last little bit, I'm like, this tonight should be something extracted from the puzzle. So when tonight, walk over and see if you can find some of the Lions Club members in the puzzle. See if you can find Quentin's store. That's kind of why we did it as an extract off of that. I want to thank the Carmen and the Youth Council. They're going to be serving you tonight. We got homemade root beer. I brewed it, okay? Might be spiked, like I said. I don't know. You let me know. Didn't have time to make homemade ice cream, but I got my favorite, so I think you'll like it. We have some ice cream sandwiches and some popsicles, too, if that you don't want any of that, or if you just want some of the root beer, you can have it. I want to thank the Historical Society also for helping make this possible tonight. I want to thank Mike Gardner, and is it DMG Films? Nailed it. For recording this tonight and everything else. I was going to try to tape record it or whatever. This worked well, and so I hope I didn't offend anybody by doing this, but I just really wanted to get it. And the thing is I can write these stories now off of it, because I can't write fast enough to remember all the stories when everybody tells me these things. So without any further ado, thanks for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it. So back there, have some fun and socialize. Appreciate it. Thank you.
When I was called a pixie, I felt like to raise the cane and cotton, right away I must go. For the reason why they call me, I really do not know. Work goes in and all in the store. Leave my house and almost broke my heart. We moved on quite slowly and often looked behind. For the things and lots of Dixie were going through my mind. I feel so weak and hungry, there's nothing left to do. Except prophetic sermon, which we often hear. They hand them out by the dozen and put them by and by. I'd rather have some roast for me, just at home and fire. The hot winds blow around me and take away my breath. I had the chills and fever till I nearly shook to death. While earthly tribulation, oh, but a moment there. And if I prove faithful, just come alright. Like dragon soul per storm sea, to make a bread and pour of gin and barley long ago dead. There's only me and Betsy left to hold the cotton green. May heaven help broke a Dixie down, wherever he may be. I come from Alabama, with the banjo on my knee. Went to Louisiana, to the Tennessee. When God knocked the day I guess, the river was dry. And so high the first two days, Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry to me. I'm from Alabama, with the banjo on my knee. I come from Alabama, with the banjo on my knee. Went to Louisiana, to the Tennessee. When God knocked the day I left, the river was dry. Sun so high, the first two days, Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry to me. I'm from Alabama, with the banjo on my knee. All right. All right.